you very much. Hello, everyone. So I'm Camille Mendler with Omdia. We're a research company globally looking at the evolution of the digital economy. It's always a pleasure to be here in India, and I'm trying to break my record of spending more time in meetings than in taxis in Mumbai, which is quite difficult. Now, I start with a small confession apology. There will be no remote surgery discussed today. There will be no cyber dogs. And there probably won't be much about the metaverse. And one reason is because we have an excellent speaker after myself who will talk to you about that. But what I hope I will talk to you about is what 5G is today and what it can be in the near future. I refuse to sell to you myths. I want to sell to you the reality of 5G. And the reality of 5G today, particularly when it comes to India, is by the end of this year, India will be the third largest market for 5G in the world. Now, that is some achievement given that the networks have only just started to be built, right? But there's building and investing, and there is making money. These are not the same things. Already today, there are many myths around where 5G is going to profit people who might be in this room, whether you're an enterprise looking to improve the way that you do business, whether you're a service provider building the networks, the 5G networks, whether you're an integrator, whether you are a technology developer. There are different roles for you in the 5G economy, but many are myths. Right now, normally, I would be at Mobile World Congress, which is an event in Barcelona, where many myths about where monetization will be are distributed. And many of my colleagues right now are sharing pictures right now of cyber dogs. They're big. Cyber dogs are big. But cyber dogs are not going to see a return on investment for you in the Indian market for 5G. Some people have already written off 5G, are thinking about 6G. In fact, I don't know if anyone is a Star Trek fan? Hands up in your... Okay, quite a few of you. So you'll have heard this. So there is a discussion right now that 5G and mobile generations are like Star Trek movies. And that is that only the even-numbered ones are successful. And so we should forget about 5G and move on to 6G. That is a story for another day. I did wonder, by the way, because I'm not talking about robot surgery and things like that, is this my naughty chair? I've never actually been given one before. I will try to not sit on it and deserve your attention when I speak to you today. And I'm going to talk to you about what enterprises here in India are doing, from work that I did with Ericsson last year, actually, and what I'm doing with enterprises around the world. So in the few minutes that I've got, I hope to give you a reality check on 5G, but also tell you that this is a great time to be in this market. So yesterday, if you were at the conference yesterday, it was an interesting discussion between the gentleman from Genpact and NTT about what motivates enterprises. And there was a discussion, well, you know, innovation is back of the queue compared to growth, compared to transformation. I might disagree to some degree because I see that the will to innovate in technology has grown extraordinarily beyond the curve of technology that we've known since, well, for the past 50 or 60 years, the traditional innovation curve. So there's a greater ambition from enterprises to use digital technologies to transform their businesses. But pragmatism is what drives people to invest to begin with. And so we need to think about use cases that work now that will drive a return on investment, whichever type of role you have in that digital economy. And what I'd like you to think about when it comes to 5G, don't think about it as just another G. There is a greater transformational potential around 5G, I would argue. Most of us in this room would be described as knowledge workers. I can tell that by the clothing that you are wearing, the typical dark suit, and the fact that most of you are men. No objection. I don't mind men at all, but it's true. You're knowledge workers, and the historical view of a knowledge worker is someone sitting at a desk wearing a white shirt, white collar, and a tie. What I think 5G can do is to make everyone in the workforce a contributor of knowledge, a creator of knowledge, someone who can also absorb knowledge as well. That is the ambition that I think you need to think about when it comes to 5G. It is more about the people today than it is about the things. Now, I believe that connected things are important, but let's be clear. The money today, the opportunity, and where I think the need is greatest, and that's the most important point, is with the people. Making sure that individuals can be knowledge workers. Okay, so that to me is the fundamental of 5G. And I've got to tell you, from the enterprises that I had the privilege to interview at length last year, and some of the ongoing conversations that I've had, there is a great deal of interest in 5G. As you can see here, more than half of the enterprises that I spoke to, and this is across different industries in India, want to start investing in 5G and different areas of 5G. And it's not just about saving money. The reason why they want to do it is not to cut costs, but to drive efficiency, which is not the same thing, drive value, which is not the same thing at all. Because by the way, and this is, most of the telecom operators won't be happy, but the reality is that you're going to get, when it comes to mobile 5G, you'll pay the same price, typically, for mobile 5G as you did for 4G. The question is whether you should, at this point, whether the devices are available. But enterprises in India today are already placing 5G within the sort of leader pack of technologies that can drive transformation, right? So there is greater knowledge than maybe some of you might realize, or appetite for 5G in the Indian market. And the reason, maybe the number one reason, and this is where I see that there's a very sophisticated, difficult but sophisticated customer here in the Indian market, is the reason to invest is about quality, with consistency of experience. Value has moved away from delivering connectivity to delivering experience. That is actually where value lies, is delivering experiences, whether you are driving experiences to consumers, to your partners, to the R&D development that you're doing. That is where value actually lies. And that's why enterprises in India want to invest in 5G. And here's just a selection. I've just extracted a few quotes from what they're saying. And it might not be what you expect. So for instance, I said I would not speak about the metaverse, but I'll talk about augmented reality and virtual reality. And I had done a fair amount of work in this space, thinking, where the investment might be in retail, or it might be in areas, different types of industries. In fact, the most potent conversations I had were with logistics managers that want to maximize space by using augmented tools to improve space in their warehouses, the way that they do logistics. Automation is something that's going to be very associated with 5G, but also in broadcast, media and broadcast, new types of segments, new types of experiences. Perhaps a channel of one becomes possible. But driving all of this is immediacy of data, immediacy of experience, and certainty of experience. And that's what's happened globally, in fact. A year or two ago, when I first really did a lot of interviews with enterprises about 5G, they were just thinking about it as a replacement for unsatisfactory fixed network environments. And that is still an issue here in India, and one of the drivers. But actually, if you see what many enterprises want, it's that knowledge and better interactions, new experiences, new customer experiences, but actually very important to many is new employee experiences, because everyone's got the same issue. We're trying to retain, we're trying to build skills and develop better environments for our customer base and our employee base. And 5G is going to have a role in that. But the difficulty, I think, is that there's been a lot of, I'm not going to use the term, yes I will, bullshit, pardon my language, around 5G. And of course, it is not just one service, it's several services. And most of the discussion, I would argue, well, there are two areas there's been major discussion here in India. One is on the whole spectrum battle around private 5G and whether enterprises and other entities should be empowered to have access to their own spectrum. And then, of course, the cost of rollout of public 5G networks. But as you can see, it is actually a portfolio of services. Today, the money is mostly in public 5G and will stay there for some time. But you see, you have a much wider range of tools and capabilities. Fixed wireless, 5G fixed wireless is something that will transform sites and maybe address construction sites, temporary sites, quick rollouts. Private 5Gs, maybe you want a more secure environment, more control of over quality. And then, of course, there is slicing, which is largely experimental. But if I really dumb down what that's all about, that is about, let's say, a very specific quality-driven virtual private network. I mean, I'm dumbing it down, but essentially that is very much something for the future. But the interest is very, very high in these areas. Now, today, as you'll see, this is a global view. We speak to thousands of enterprises around the world every single year at Omdia. And as you can see right now, more than a third of the enterprises that we've spoken to, these are mid-market to larger enterprises, have already invested in the public 5G. There is a great deal of interest in some of these other areas, but the two hero services that I see are public 5G and fixed wireless. The other two, which are more a la carte consultative services, have huge potential, but they're very difficult to implement. They're a custom engagement. And in terms of driving volume, that might be a longer discussion and certainly more complex. But certainly they're driving a lot of attention in the market. But let me talk to you a little bit about, if I can get this clicker to work, by the way. It's stopped working, folks, so if you want to move my slides. Nope. Does anyone want to move my slides? I can't do it myself, unfortunately. It doesn't seem to be working. Okay. Yeah, I think you guys are going to have to move my slides, otherwise it's going to be a little difficult for me to talk about these things. But let me do it anyway. What I'd like to characterize to you is that the typical buyer for 5G services today. Maybe you'll recognize yourself amongst these buyers. There are different buyer personas so they have a different mission for why they're investing in 5G. So there are four that I've identified, and you will find them here in India. Some of them are reflective of, oh, now there's no signal. Okay, great. So the first is a pragmatist, a technology pragmatist. The reason they're investing in something like 5G is they're trying to get a very clear business outcome. So for them, it might be more of a cost argument. We also have examples of those that are more about, oh yeah, here we go, what I call a digital engager. They're investing in 5G to create new types of experiences with their customer base, typically their customer base. There's also what I call a quality tyrant persona. That is someone you probably don't want to negotiate a contract with. They are driven by absolute quality. That is what their business is built on, and that is what drives what they expect for each one of their partners. And its quality is the number one thing. So all of your KPIs have got in place, your service level agreements. And the last example, and there's a smaller number of these today, though the innovation ambition is growing, is the growth hawk. So let me give you just a few examples in the time that I have left. If we can move the slides along one more, please, that would be great, if that's possible. Because I can't move the slides myself. But I'll tell you, I'll walk you through it. So frontline pragmatist. So I was speaking to the chief operating officer of a manufacturing company. And I call them, and they have invested in private 5G by accident. And a lot of this happens. So their investment in private 5G has happened because, in fact, they had a tender for forklift trucks. This is a manufacturer, it does lids for jars and things of that nature. It doesn't sound very interesting, but they're very profitable, and but it's still, you know, margin-driven organization. Anyway, the COO, and it's not always the CIO, in fact, it often isn't in this space, was looking to invest in a new generation of forklifts, and having done his research, he realized that, in fact, if he invested in autonomous vehicles that had that forklift function, using a private 5G network, they could, the autonomous vehicles actually take a lot less space in the warehouse, so that he could create narrower corridors in the warehouse, and through that, create a third more space in the warehouse, justifying that investment handsomely, right? Turning a cost into an actual profit-making opportunity. That's an example of a frontline pragmatist. Looking at some of these other 5G examples, fixed wireless. If you are rolling out branches quickly, or perhaps you've made an acquisition, you need to standardize your network and you need to roll out quick. Fixed wireless is doing the job. I've spoken to, the example here is actually a pizza franchise, a global pizza franchise. And for them, they are not just buying 5G, they're buying a security package, they're buying software, they're buying SD-WAN and SASE, all of that as a package from a global service provider. And the other two examples, actually let me focus on the orthopedic hospital. And I think the orthopedic hospital is very important because this is business model transformation. This is an established company, it's been around for 40 years. I'm a woman of a certain age, but apparently in a few years' time I'm going to need a hip replacement, which is not a happy thought, and maybe I'll need a knee replacement as well. But anyway, this orthopedic hospital has made good money in that space, but they want to engage with their clients, their patients in a new way. And apparently these replacement joints do not last forever, which is not another, and again, not a happy thought, but a reality, and so they want to track these. Now, they're not a buyer yet, but they're looking at 5G slicing as a way to track implant, the function of these implants, and they bought a company that provides these implants, to extend their business model, extend the value chain of what they're doing. So that's an example of someone doing something very transformational, whereas the example of the broadcaster is reaching another type of customer. And I've got a couple of minutes left, so I'll try to go through this relatively quickly. As you know, as many of you know, there is a big debate about private 5G. And I think it's probably the telecom operators that are the most concerned. You know, Geo is concerned, or Airtel, or Vodafone, or Vi, I should say, and others, BSNL perhaps. Who's going to be in charge of running private 5G networks, and who wants them? Well, the reason for private 5G is if you're not getting a very good service, you want to have extended control, and there are certain industries, as you can see, that are most interested in these private 5G environments. That most of these private networks are actually LTE for now, they're not 5G. But these are the industries that are investing on a global level today. I expect some of that pattern to repeat here. And there was some level of interest. But in practice, if you look at how these deals are done, no enterprise, or very small number of enterprises doing this by themselves. They are usually working with someone else. They are working with an integrator. They're working with a telecom operator. In fact, usually there are many, many multi-party deals out there. And they would rather work with someone else because the main event is running their business, not running this operation. So that is an opportunity for you. Now, thinking about the development of 5G, particularly public 5G in India, has the same problems, even more acutely than we see globally. Here, what enterprises say around the world is holding them back. It is the story of devices. Who is going to pay for those devices, number one? What devices are available? Is it a justified migration or not? And I think importantly also is we do not live in a greenfield environment. Most companies have messy environments, and integrating with legacy systems and managing that on a global level is an absolute priority for many enterprises. And for those of you who have an ambition to make money from 5G, to add this on to the portfolio of what you're doing, you need to be able to manage that legacy, whether that legacy looks like an old Wi-Fi network, whether it's integrating fixed environment, and not least also think about all of these other areas. I think I've skipped over a slide, or one has disappeared, unfortunately, which is actually about the fact that 5G is being sold not by itself, but as a portfolio with IoT. It is being sold with security, and particularly security expertise. So if you're going to sell 5G, actually it's going to be part of a broader portfolio, and that's where the opportunity lies. The demand for 5G is here, it's now, and India by the end of this year will be the third largest 5G market in the world, and a lot of it will be driven by enterprise as much as consumer. But don't believe cost is the only trigger. It is not the trigger for investment in 5G. That is not the route that you should drive this technology through. It's actually about securing great experiences for your customers and for your employees. And if you don't know about 5G, now is the time to learn, because many enterprises are already placing it into the digital leader pack of the transformational technologies that will take them into the future. And it's a near future that's happening today. So I hope that's okay. I'm not going to sit in the naughty chair. And I thank you very much for your time. And I'm around if you want to ask questions at a later time. But thank you. There.
For more interesting content, like, comment and subscribe to our NASScom YouTube channel.